So what was I talking about? The Material Design Lite in Pharo. So welcome. The thing is, okay, who am I? So about me, you can find, okay, I do Pharo stuff, which is this platform I'm using. I also do big data with Works. So I'm managing the clusters and so on. That's the kind of question I ask. I do web and also freestyle streaming, just to relax from the rest. You can find my Twitter account, Facebook, LinkedIn, and whatever, GitHub. So let's come to GitHub. So here I have put a Material Design Lite GDG project, where in fact you can go to Pharo, and you can go to this site where we created an implementation of Material Design Lite for the platform. So that's not Pharo. So this is a tool which is compared to, let's say you program in JavaScript, or you would program in PHP, you program in well, JavaScript. You do JavaScript, you may have your command line tool, NPM, you would have V8, Node, you may have also WebStorm, you have all these things, you need all these tools. Well, here you need only one executable, which is Pharo.exe, and you have your image file. You can also save things to GitHub as separate files and so on, but you see there are no files per se. So I just have one image here, which is a big repository. And when I start my Pharo, so it's looking like that, except this taskbar is bugging me. So maybe there's a hide taskbar somewhere. So the platform runs on Windows, Mac, Raspberry Pi, phones, iOS. The thing which is interesting here is that we are not using technology from other people. We are doing our own VM or IDE. Web platform, everything is done from zero. Well, from zero. In fact, it started in the 80s. It's quite historic, but still relevant. And you will have this platform which executes things, but also allow you to code things in it. So it's pretty live. You can run an app, your user will use it, you see a bug, change the code when it's running. So that's something that gives you a pretty fast loop. And this is a pretty fast loop, which is interesting when you do web applications, because I can showcase the site or the app to a marketing guy who will tell me, oh, I like that here, or here, or here, and you can change directly. So it has proved quite useful for me for commercial applications that I have done in the past. So you would have a number of tools, say, okay, system browser, where you would have, let's say, packages, and you have classes, and well, you would have methods. If someone here did some Objective-C, you will see that you have protocols, grouping your methods together. That's pretty nice. And say we are going to look at some sites about material design now, because what's interesting there is material design. I believe it's a very good environment to, a very good solution to have nice looks. So before I go too far in this talk, yeah, you see Pharo is pretty open as environment, so you can create your own widgets, that stuff. So that's my programming environment, but I can have this running in the corner for it to work. So it's my little timer running here. You also have like other tools like Pomodoro stuff and so on. You see here, you could run your. Oh, I hate the trackpad by the way. Okay, you can have your Pomodoros running. So these are tools that the community created to have some fun. And we have something like quick access. So I would say, okay, a website. I've created a number of quick actions. Say we are going to first look at where is all this material design coming from. One place you have the Design Google website, and there you have a number of resources like Google Fonts, Material Design Guidelines, and that's where you would find all this design language explanations. You have also this new thing, which is the material design for wearables. All these things you can wear on yourself, watches and so on, Android TV and so on. You will also see a number of very interesting things for trying out the stuff. You would have a database of metrics for all devices in device metrics. And you would have also the resizer. The resizer is very useful because you can put a website here. It will come here and you see how it will look like on multiple devices. So let's say I want to see like that, and I want to see on phone, so you don't need the actual device to test drive your stuff. That's pretty neat for that. Now, you also have color palettes, layout, new fonts, and so on, so it's very nice for your designers. But the key thing is actually on the material design guidelines, which are here. So this site, actually, if you get this menu, you would have all the explanations of this material design language. And the title of this talk is Material Design Lite. So you have different things. So Material Design Lite is a special implementation of this language for the web. So you would have a set of JavaScript and CSS classes to do all the things that I explained here. Well, about all the things, because there are more in here than you can do with a web browser still. So, for example, there's one important thing in material design, and why is it called material? It's because you have to think about all the elements as having an elevation. And each element has 1 pixel of 8. So it's a DP. So a DP is a resolution, independent pixel, just one unit of display. And there is a number of dynamic elevations, offsets, and effects. And the various, you see, like it's here. Maybe I can zoom in a bit. So in material design, you would rest on this plane. But if someone touches or interacts with the model element, there you would get this effect, so it raises. And you have a full logic for that. So for example, you see this add menu, it stays on top. And there is a shadow here that conveys the fact that, yeah, it's above the rest. Right? This menu here, it's in fact going above. It's still another layer. And see, it's going on top of it. So that's this language. Here I have the search. Oh, come on. Maybe I have to click again. Oops. So up here you will have also something coming on top. That's a bit buggy. That's fine. When you try it on your phone browser, it will also have a special behavior, which is different. The phone has some more abilities than does the web browser per se. I don't know how they managed to do it, but it's different. So, yeah, maybe this is this one. So, you have a number of rules you have to obey on the model. Just I'm trying to find. There is a screen where you see all the elevations of things. And what is nice on this design side is you can have a view of do and don'ts. So like, you should do something like that, and you shouldn't do something like that. But this is not the case here. But it's interesting to have a full design language. I did a lot of it Bootstrap before, and really I want to move full on this UI style because it's so much better. Yeah, layout, I think it's what I want to show. So here, I will explain you how paper works, and there is this thing about what they call a fab. Maybe you saw that already. If you have Gmail on your phone, you have this big plus on the bottom right. And this is a floating action button, something you can press, but it's above you. So you see there's this little thing. So this is kind of a button like that, this floating action buttons. So structure, I guess that's where it is. And there is a lot. On mobile, you have a specific structure. You see app menu here, maybe the fab here, maybe a drawer thing at the bottom. So these are all elements you need to understand. On the tablet, it's somewhat different. And then you have all these motions. So this material design language supports the fact that, okay, on a phone, you do it, you push, it has to respond within a given amount of time. If you do the same on a tablet, it has to be slower. It's like something would move from here to here. It has to be slower on the tablet because there is more space. Maybe not more pixels, but more space on the tablet. And for the web, it's also different. But this language supports that, so the experience is quite good. And it's all based on something that Google has, which is the 10 things we know to be true. So maybe, who knows that? The 10 things we know to be true from Google? So, just when Google was starting, so they have these 10 things. Focus on the user. It's best to do one thing really, really well. So this language just captures that. And fast is better than slow. So Material Design tries to put this balance between, okay, sexy, but still with some animations. I don't know, on my phone I always turn all the animations off in developer mode, so that's it's faster. Who's using Material Design here? What do you find it? Just nice or
I like it.
Bad, crap, or
I like it.
Like it? What is the challenge in parts that you may have experienced?
So far, actually it's not a challenge, it's more the other way around. It's very easy to have an app that looks nice without doing much effort.
Yep, I agree to that. So, you have Google Design. So, Google Design would point you to Google Material Design. And then you would have Material Design Lite. And before going there, I'd like to show you another thing which is interesting to track. It's the brand awards. So to show a number of examples that have been done with Material Design. So we would have, for example, Asana, which is the team management software. So they have done now all their things using Material Design, which is quite nice. Then you have Fabulous Motivate Me here, like more childish style, but quite good. And you see, in fact, in Material Design, you can choose two main colors. The main colors and the accent color. And there is a color chooser that can help you, because if you select some colors, it will not allow you to select anything out of a given range to make things look good. So here you would have also other apps, like more Taiwanese. I never understand how you could put these two colors together, but okay, it's can adjust. And also another style, right? All cards, photos, and so on. And there's a lot of guidelines to help you make these sites if you go through the Material Design guide. And of course, right, Uber. We can't argue because this not being a success, but they use Material Design as well in their application. So now let's go to Material Design Lite, which is another website. So Google has made that Material Design Lite, and you have all the source, all the components of that. So it's an implementation of Material Design components, which I haven't talked about, but you have a number of components inside Material Design. I will showcase a few. And this is the site where you can get it, getMDL.io. So Material Design is the design language, and this is an implementation of it. And also in Android SDK, I guess you have the same. I'm not an app developer, so but we have plenty. So from here, you would have templates. You can start, but these templates, they will be full of CSS, JavaScript, and so on. So it's a bit boring to type. And you can also customize the thing. So what I can show you now is how we do that in Pharo, because instead of writing class this and I don't know, use this JavaScript and so on, we try to make something using a domain specific language. I think my timer has been stopped for some reason. Till when do I have?
No. I think it started within 20 minutes ago, so another half hour. Okay, perfect.
So here I will talk about how we do web applications in Pharo. So we use a framework which is called named Seaside. It's a component-based framework. It's there since a long time. But if we look at things today like React, React uses components. You have JS6 and you have JavaScript. Well, and render a routine to render the component. It's pretty much the same way we do. So I have also a need for a web server. So here we have a a web server, which is a Zinc server, which plugs into the framework, but that's no-brainer now. So I just start my server here. So no need for Apache, no need for Nginx, no need for anything. Just have my own local server. So say, that's boring, you don't see my web one. So localhost 8080. So okay, welcome to Seaside, but you can get rid of that. You can install a bunch of applications in this system. And here I have my MDL demo application, so let's go there. So what we have here, you see that instead of creating HTML and so on, we just have this object, HTML, which is given to us when we render a component. And we have a number of brushes to paint on this canvas. So like you can say HTML MDL icon badge with data badges 1 overlap with some text. So how is this language working? You have no dots, right? It's not like in Java, HTML dots, no dot. There's no parentheses, do something. It's like keyword messages. And if you have this, it means like chaining. If you do JavaScript, you know, like do this, dot, do this, you know, this chaining style. Well, we had this for 40 years ago. So. And the icon badge, this is the result, and you apply this message to it with this parameter. And to the same thing here, you apply it, you apply it, you apply it. If parenthesis is just do the parenthesis first. So for example, here I do an icon badge, in which I put the UTF-9829, which just happens to be some icon in the Material Design. Put it in, would overlap here with icon box. So this would render the parts you see here, right? And what you can do interestingly with, let's say, Seaside, is you have this allows feature. So if I activate this, well, of course, my screen is a bit like squeezed, but you can see all the parts of your application. So it would be my application, I would have a screen layout, would have a layout in there, a title, an icon drawer, screen footer, and the contents of the screen. And if I click here, or even if I click here, I can inspect my application directly. So I can look inside this component from my web application. I can maybe dig in, see, okay, is this content here? Maybe the layout is interesting to me. I can really go in and even change values. So if I would say, I don't know here if I have value to change. If I had one, I could change it directly here. And then close this and have my and get this screen updated. For example, here I see my badges. I would like to see where this code is. If I would click browse here, click on that. Well, usually I use two screens for it, but one with the web app, and one with my ID. It would open directly here the screen I am using. And I can change, for example, so each rendering, you have render screen content here. So I render the icon badges, blah, 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 on the HTML. So you see it's pretty readable as code. Okay, it's a bit alien for you if you don't program with this kind of language, maybe less if you do Objective-C. But then I could go on a one message like with card size of 1. Let's say who's implementing that? And that's where this environment is interesting because it's pretty dynamic. So I can introspect everything. It's not like with, let's say, WebStorm, where it would index all my code. The code is directly indexed and everything. So I can look at who is implementing that. So who implements with card size of 1? Just like implementers of it. Maybe nobody. Okay. Oh, because the message is not this, it's on here. See? Instead of function calls with parentheses, you have keywords messages. You need to assemble them together. So if I take this and I ask for the implementers, keyword, search. Why not? Well, it's bugging me for some reason. Just should work. But icon badges here, you see that Oh, well, maybe. So render icon badge. And this brush is the MDL icon badge we saw, right? So let's see how is this implemented. So now I can go to it. And you see that it's a HTML canvas. They say self brush this new brush. So the canvas knows a bunch of brushes. And when you ask him for an MDL icon badge, it's like a builder pattern or something. And you can just look at this new brush. So you can create your own brushes. And that's what we did. So if I go to MDL icon badge, that's just a brush we can use to paint. Okay? And the icon badge is a special kind of badge. So I can even go to the badge itself and see how this was implemented. So for example, in there, we would have this data badge message. Right? So data badge would say, okay, attribute at data badge put this string. And this is actually what is in the Material Design Lite CSS class. So no more putting this all over. And if you change at one place, it will change everywhere in the various brushes we use on the system. So for example, you could also have no background, boom, it would add this class. Overlap, you saw it too, boom, it would add this. So instead of having to put all your classes, you can try putting these messages and dynamically add or remove them. Right? So if I was on this component, this one here, and I say, okay, I'd like to try without overlap, and I'd like to say, I don't know, maybe icon box is something. Just I save it, and if I will remove that. So, well, it's not overlapping anymore. This one. But if I put it back, there again. Right. So that's pretty neat. You can do it on a single component as well, reload only one component. And so we also have implemented some, because you have two things in Material Design Lite. You have components, so a bunch of components, badges, buttons, cards, let's say cards. So nice cards like this. With animations, that's also good about Material Design. All these animations are supported. And you see how to do this card? Yeah, here we have a leftover, and we are finishing to, let's say, digest all these classes in the version. But you say it's just, okay, I get a card, it's a shadow of 2, with this content. So inside my card, I can put this title, the text container, the card actions, with buttons and so on. And you can pretty much compose everything. Right? I say ripple effect, want to remove it, just remove it. And maybe I can take this and refactor it inside a smaller call that I can reuse everywhere. So that's really interesting to have a clean application without scattering, CSS classes and so on all over, because that's really painful, especially with a lot of templates. What is also interesting is how you can debug this. So say that I'm curious to see how this render icon badge works. I would say, okay, now just alt here. Right? So I can go back to my icon thing. So it stops somewhere. No, I can't see it. All right, just kind of sleeping here because it waits for me on the ID. And there I can look at everything. So I could say, right, who has called you in the call stack? So this has called you, all right. So you're inside this grid. And in fact, the canvas was rendering things. So right there you get into the framework, you don't really care, but if you are here, this icon badge, all right, now I'd like to step through. So, okay. But maybe I want to change the code because the overlap I don't want anymore. So I can just remove this, save it, restart this method. I can even go above in my call stack. So restart the method and proceed. So, okay, out again. So I proceed again. And you see that this has changed. So I haven't been in need of reloading my app or anything like that. So it's very powerful if in keeping this flow and thinking, okay, that's what I want. I just do what I like, just stop there, change, and continue iterating. That's when you do, let's say, JavaScript development, you have, Watch and Bower or whatever. It's the tool. It's not Gulp, it's the Grunt. So Grunt Watch. That's why you get this liveness here. You have it directly too. Of course, this is server-side at this point. There's also support for JavaScript things. There's something about what is it? There's a widget, the poll widget, which allows you to do some interesting bits. Yes. So to test drive this this thing on your own, if you like, you can just download Pharo from the Pharo site. It's very simple to do. I'll just show you here. So if you go to the Pharo site, website. So Pharo website. Okay. So you can take the version here, and you have support for Mac, Windows, and Linux. Of course, if you get into Linux, you have support for a bunch of various Linuxes. It also runs on servers which have no X at all. So, for example, this environment, I run it on CentOS boxes. We just have server code. But in Pharo, you can also run your own remote frame buffer, so you can connect to it using VNC. So think about connecting to VNC, with VNC directly to your IDE, which is also running on the server, without having to install anything extra. So your client finds a bug, you can get in there, see the log, change the code, even live. So that's really interesting for non-stop deployment. There's also a number of Docker images. So if you want to test drive it, you say Pharo Docker, and you would get a bunch of images on Docker Hub. So it's using Arch Linux for them. What else can I tell you about this? Yeah, actually, the implementation that we have here for this Material Design Lite. So it's on a repository for an organization called DuneST. So okay, it's a C-side, Pharo, Dunes. It's all like, let's say, C-style terms. And you see that with Pharo, even if it's an image-based system, we can use GitHub properly. Any Git backend. So I have code on Bitbucket, I have code here. We also support Travis builds, so you can use Travis to integrate your code if you like to. So to install it, we have a tool called Material, which is the equivalent of a gem install or a Bower install. This is the kind of same thing we use. We can use whatever baseline or branch, so all this is supported in this language. So it's not because it's like Smalltalk inspired, it's stuck in the 80s. You have modern other stuff there. At least we'll have a 64-bit VM coming, I hope. There is one running. But for the performance of this VM, the VM will be on par with V8 at the minimum. So there are firms like Lam Research. I don't know if you heard about them, but they do the software to do the chips in your phones. And they run the fabs with this Smalltalk beast. And they hired 2 engineers of the VM to do a special version for managing their fab. And because the downtime for what they do, it's like 30 minutes a year. So they need this to update things. And because it's a Google Developer Day, there's a bunch of people doing these things at Google. So Lars Bak, for example, the guy who did the V8 system, in fact, he's a former Smalltalker. And if you look at people from Dart, there's a number of people like Alan Knight on the Dart project. He's also a former Smalltalker. Gilead Braca, which is a distinguished engineer at Google, is also a guy doing these kind of things. So it's interesting to see this connection between this old thing and the new thing. So very nice. What else can I tell you here? Yeah, also you would see that instead of having to load jQuery and all the libraries with files and CSS and so on, basically in this environment you have what is called here a library, which is a class, and you would just add them. So I have one for Twitter Bootstrap, I have one for jQuery Widgetbox and so on, so all that can be used very easily. And one thing also I told you, we can, just maybe I will remove this out from here. Okay, save, proceed. We can customize the colors of the application. So it's very hard for this. I put bigger fonts, but now the screen is so small. So where's my applications? Yeah, you see we have all the kind of widgets, like calendars, footers, and list icon. So everything has been done, like the poll here. What is interesting here, you can, where's the vendor? Poll. Yeah, it's just too small for me. Thumbs poll, yeah. The rendering is somewhere, not where. But the thing which was interesting in that is you have Ajax calls to the system. And here with the backend, it's very easy to do an Ajax call. So you just say jQuery Ajax, and then you put a closure, a block. And this block is just going to be invoked on the backend. So no more nightmares with what is called when and so on. We also have a framework which is called TaskKit, which does all the futures, worker pools, and whatever asynchronous work you want to do. This is also supported. The fact is, yeah, we should write much more documentation than we do. But if you'd like to pay us a visit, we have a quite friendly Slack channel on Pharo. So see, just, I don't know, maybe just now or something, this guy answered me. We have things about data visualization and so on. So you can also put together interesting things if you do big data and so on. There is a book out now which is called Agile Visualization. OSL is the name of the engine we have done. Yeah, there. So you can do all kind of visualization from data and so on. You can render all that as SVG and put these things inside nice MDL cards. So that's quite nice for that. See, like you would have code and metrics and you would relate things together. That's the kind of things we do. So there's a book about all of that. So it's pretty neat what you can do with this. And if some of you are doing Swift programming, we have this idea of a playground. So on the playground, you write your expressions, like say 1, 2, 5, and oh, come on. I'm usually typing on QWERTY keyboard. But 1 to 5, I'd like to see what it is. It will tell me, it's an interval, like that. And I can look in meta and I can see all I can do is this. So I can see here, I can do plus, I can do minus, and so on. So say I would do 1 to 5. I would say, 1 to 5. Why not for 1 to 5? There is no for statements here. It's just because 1 is an object and you send it the message to, and you give it the parameter 5, and then it will give you an interval. So that's why I have it 1. And I'd say here, for example, collect what? And there you can do a block closure very easily. So like each, and just name one. And I would say each square, right? So I do that, and I look in the playground, okay, what's going on? It says, okay, all the items square. And now I want to put all that together. So I'd say, okay, map this or reduce this, but I would say at once. So I'd say, I think gather does it. Yeah, so I think it's like that. Or maybe I can do reduce. Like if you do map reduce, let's do reduce, reduce, A, B. Let's say A plus B. So it would take the first, add the second one, and to that result third, and blah, 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 a bunch. Maybe I have a mixed race. Okay. And boom, I got the result. Right? So no need to compile, but it's compiled, because if I look at a method, I have bytecode behind. I can ask for the abstract syntax tree of any expression, and then apply my own visitors on that. So that's quite nice. Even the VM we use, it's not written in C. We have the VM written in Smalltalk itself, Pharo Smalltalk itself. So people can debug the VM in here, and then translate it to C. So that's very interesting for me as a hacker, because I want to understand how these things are working. So if you want to know how the web sockets and so on work, we have also support for WebSocket and so on. So there's a lot of examples in the image itself. So you don't have to go around and dig for examples. Everything is in here. So if I say, oh, gather or reduce, how is this working? Just go to it. Let's say, it's on a collection, and let's browse it. And I would see, all right, does this a command? Well, sorry, reduce. There's a command here. And for example, you see 1, 2, 3 as set. So if I had 2 times 3, it would just take it once, reduce it, and reduce A, B, and up, I get this. If you want to reject elements, just write a reject message. And you have also a bunch of shortcuts that allows you to write things very fast. So you see, instead of having to write this, you can say, okay, I will put squared, like a hashtag here. And this is a symbol, and the symbol is an object. And the symbol would say, if I am passed to this collection, in fact, it means that I have to apply that message to each thing that comes inside me. So it's pretty much, for OO, I thought I understood OO when I did Java and so on, and C++. But I think I never understood OO properly until I saw what these things were, what these things were working. Because I could inspect everything, not just use a library, but know it worked inside. So there, it's the same computation, of course. So I don't know if I have still some time. Some time, or?
No, we're about done. We're about done.
About that.
Yeah.
So I hope I have given you a taste of material design, Material Design Lite. The fact that Google has some resources to help you there. So the matrix thing, the test tools, and yeah. Frankly, I will prepare a clean image for you to try if you are interested. So this will be on my Twitter feed. So you could launch it, get everything like that, have all the quick things, because on the quick access, in fact, I put all the stuff about, I'd like to install Pharo, I'd like to load this thing, I need to load the Material Design Lite from 0 and so on. So I will have a full image and an image with nothing, so you can just feed it. What else? Yeah, and all the tools are in. So well, here is because it will work on Windows, but if you'd like to go to this site, you click and bam, you get it. So in Pharo, you have a tool which is called Quick Access. You can add, and you see that any snippet you'd like to have as code, because you have often snippet, GISTs you use, you can make your own. So like here, I'd say, okay, that is WinShell shell browse. And this tool, you see, it's the same inspector that I use for inspecting code or the playground. It's just an extension. So to build a tool like that to explore things, I'd say it's 3-4 classes max. So the guy who developed this thing, he developed that for quick access, but he made also a MongoDB Explorer, like in 2 days, among its other duties. So that's really the kind of thing you can get with this environment, and why it's interesting for me. So if you have seen your let's say, Android Studio a bit too much. Just relax with this one. So thank you for your attention, and nice GDG DevFest.
Thank you.